Hey everyone, how's it going? So first of all, I just want to say real quick, thank you for watching my videos and for the great feedback I've received so far. And I hope to be bringing you much more videos in the future, starting with this one. So I was thinking about the kind of topics to cover in an advanced Webpack series. But the more I thought about it and planned it out, the more I realized that Webpack is such a modular and unique tool that there's really no one order or flow or priority level when it comes to once you pass the basics, right? So I do have some topics in mind, but there's not really going to be a series per se or any order. Because now that we're done with the basics, everything from here on out is pretty much kind of pick and choose for your setup. But I do want to go over this particular topic first because I feel it's the most important and compelling reason to use Webpack. Basically, the Commons chunk plugin, which is what we're going to be talking about, is the main reason you would probably use Webpack in the first place, right? So everything we've talked about up until now in my basic series was pretty much just stuff for your development setup. But really, what's the point of any of these tools, right, if they don't have some benefit for us in production? And the reason Webpack is such a great tool for production is partially due to this plugin here called Commons Chunk plugin. And what it does is it basically does all the hard thinking for us by very efficiently building these bundles of code for us to serve to our client in the most efficient way. And what I mean by that is it will break out common code among all your entry points or specific entry points that you choose and separate them out into their own bundles. So what it does basically for us is manage a healthy payload size with a good number of requests to the server, right? And that's something that's very important as our web apps get bigger and bigger with more code. So let's break this into some visuals because I think it really helps this kind of like complicated, a little more abstract kind of thing, right? So this is how the code I'm going to show you, the examples are set up basically. And this is basically what a simple module, code module or entry point will look like, right? So when you make a entry point in Webpack, this is basically what you're going to have in your bundle. So the first and most important thing, any entry point will have your Webpack bootstrap code. And what that is it's basically a fairly small amount of code that Webpack itself needs in order to run your code, right? So we're making these modules, but again, remember these modules, this whole module system doesn't actually exist. Webpack is making it for us. So Webpack needs its code to run your code somewhere. And if you have a basic one entry point setup, it will when you compile, it will put that bootstrapping code into that bundle, right? So next in red here, I have like my home page, right? So this will be my entry point, and the home page has these three dependencies. One is we're just calling it a component module, which is just its own internal dependency. And here in the green, we have the navbar component, which is a shared component. And then here is like a library or any external kind of modules that you were pulling in will be represented here. In this case, I'm going to use jQuery, right? So again, the order of hierarchy here as far as modules are concerned is the Webpack bootstrap is necessary to run all this code. We have our entry point, and our entry point has children. And of course, in a larger app, these children can have children of their own, right? So in another folder, I have an about page. This is an entirely separate entry point for an entirely separate web page. And again, it's just for this example, we're keeping it simple using the exact same stuff. It's just this is a different entry module. Okay. So what this can basically be represented as is this here. So if I was to make a diagram of these modules, right, I have two separate entries designated here in red. They both are dependent or subsidiary to this Webpack Bootstrap code, because again, the Webpack Bootstrap code is what allows all this to work. These two entry points are sharing this vendor library or external module. And then between the two, they share a similar component, the navbar component. But they have their own independent child components that are two totally different components. So basically, as you can see here, we have three shared modules: the Webpack Bootstrap, jQuery, and the navbar code, right? So you can imagine that delivering all of this to the client, or even just this, is kind of inefficient, right? There's no need for us to send that much code at once. Even though it's one request, it's still a lot of code. And the problem here is when we're bouncing back and forth between these pages, right, we're loading up a lot of extra JavaScript on that second page that we've already downloaded here. But the browser doesn't know that because we've bundled everything together, right? So basically, these are the three shared modules that the Commons Chunk plugin will take out for us, and we don't have to worry about it all. So what we'll end up with is basically this. We're going to be creating a Commons module or bundle or chunk, whatever you want to call it. And this Commons chunk will basically have three things. It will contain the Webpack bootstrapping code, the navbar, and jQuery, right? The three shared modules, right? And basically, we can now represent our module structure like this. Okay. So Webpack Bootstrap, again, will run first. The Commons chunk will execute next. It has the code for the navbar and jQuery inside of it, and home and about will reference the Commons plugin, or excuse me, the Commons module whenever it needs to reference either of these two, right? And then again, they have their own independent children, which have no relation to Commons. So what does that mean? Basically, we can separate out into three bundles now. We have our Commons bundle, our home bundle, our about bundle, and therefore, say when the user hits our home page, right, they're going to download two JavaScript files. They're going to download our Commons bundle, which contains these three children, and the home bundle, which contains this one child. So now that we have this in place, again, this is exactly the same as what we had in the first slide, right, for the homepage. So they're pretty much downloading the same amount of code. But the nice thing is now when they go to the About page, all they have to do is download this, right? And of course, any subsequent page thereafter if you're sharing more code, right? So this is really helpful. So I'm going to show you now in the code really simply how this works. So the first thing we need to do is in our Webpack config, we need to require it in. Now the Commons Chunk plugin is part of Webpack, so you don't have to install anything separate here. You can just require it like this. So it's actually kind of nested inside your Webpack module. So you can just do webpack/lib optimize Commons Chunk plugin. And of course you can name that whatever variable name you'd like. And just like with the other plugins, okay, down here in our plugins array, we're just going to add that on. So we can say new Commons Chunk plugin. And what we're going to do here is basically the minimal thing you need for the Commons Chunk plugin is a name. And the name, so this is where it gets tricky, but I'm just going to show you here right now. I'm going to call this Commons. You can call this whatever you want. This is just going to be the name of the bundle that you're spitting out. Right? Just to show you real quick, I'm going to run this without it first. Okay, let's do npm start. Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, so you see, just like the basic setup we had before in the basics, I have my about bundle.js. It's got all this stuff in it, which is all the Webpack stuff. And then down here, you can see I have my content, which is like my component, okay, my component module, and my navbar. So if I actually go to about.js, you can see I'm just importing three things: jQuery, content, which is my component, and navbar. And I'm just appending those two things to the DOM. So up here, you can see this is the navbar, and this is like the component. So yeah, again, this is inefficient. We only have to make one request for one file, which is nice, but it has a lot of extra stuff, which isn't too bad. But again, the fact that on homepage we're sharing that code makes it pretty inefficient, right? So what we need to do is, let's just uncomment this now. We can make a comments chunk plugin. Now what's going to happen is Webpack will look through all the entry files or entry bundles, right, that it's creating, and any shared modules that it will pull out and put into this commons, this new commons chunk. Now the thing about that is, since we're using the Webpack plugin, we now have to specify this new bundle. So we're gonna, in our chunks, we're gonna add commons, and again, that's whatever you named it down here. Could be anything, could be shared, you know. And remember, whenever you edit your Webpack config, you need to restart it. Okay, so now you can actually see down here, right, we have a commons.bundle.js. And now in my browser, you can see that on this homepage, I've loaded an app.bundle and a commons.bundle.js. So now you can actually see in the commons bundle, we have all this stuff at the beginning, which is the Webpack bootstrap, right? Just like I was saying before. And then at the bottom, you can see this is jQuery and this is the navbar, okay? So now if I go to my app bundle, you can see that's it, right? Before it was this giant long file. This one is 17,000 lines, the commons chunk. And then that's pretty much what was in app before, and now it's only 51 lines, right? Because all it is just some information here. This is the actual app module itself, and then in here, this is the component or content module that I imported, and everything else it relies on for the navbar and for jQuery, it relies on the commons chunk. And if I go to about page, right, same deal. Commons chunk is in here, has the same stuff because it's the same bundle, and the about bundle has the content for the about page and the about module itself, right? So I think that's it for this video. This will be a part 1 out of 2. So pretty much to get, it's pretty simple to get immediate effects. If you just create a new commons chunk plugin after requiring it up top, and if you simply name, just give it a name, right? And again, if you're using the Webpack plugin, I would definitely put it in first in the array, but I believe the Webpack plugin is, the HTML Webpack plugin is smart enough to put your bundles in the correct order. But if you are not, if you are doing this manually, you do want to make sure that in your page, in your index HTML, you are definitely have your commons bundle script tag first. Because if you don't, the about bundle won't get run because it doesn't know what to do. Because remember your Webpack bootstrap will be inside of the commons bundle, and that needs to run first. Okay, just FYI. And yeah, so in the next video, I'm just going to talk about going into this a little bit more and talk about the different options we have and what the different parameters will do, and how we can leverage that to create different bundles.